Hello, you Multi-Manx Mayhems, and thank you to Anton Harefield, 8341, for that malt mention. I'm Ralphie, this is the Bothy, and this, because I've just lit a candle, you see. Nice little candle here. I'll bring it forward so as you can see it. To illuminate the Bothy, because here in Ralphie Review 1000 Extras, I'm going to do a little bit to illuminate your whisky awareness. Now, you notice I didn't say knowledge, I'm just saying whisky awareness. And I've really been thinking about what three pieces of advice above all others could I give you that would be particularly useful to you on your journey with whisky and other quality spirits. Because there's more and more people taking that journey. There's more and more people drinking less and drinking better. Just as there are more and more people who are consuming less and consuming better, because it's very easy and relatively cheap to consume a whole load of forgettable junk. And that applies to whisky as much as applies to any other commodity. You can easily go out and spend £20 in a supermarket on a bottle of whisky and you will have an experience. But will it be one that you'll be happy to remember in a week or a month's time? I doubt it, unless you're really, really lucky. A whisky journey is a slow journey. It takes time, and as much as there are experts out there who can basically show you the lie of the land, kind of explain the landscape to you a little bit, you know, what's single malts, what's blends, what are pot stills, what are column stills. It really is at this moment in time up to the enthusiast to actually share the journey, not as an expert, but as a fellow traveller, sharing their journey with you to help you navigate your own journey. And this is really my purpose here. After 1,000 reviews, I mean, what am I doing online, on YouTube, buying all these bottles of whisky, with more whisky than I'll ever drink in a lifetime, with more flavour and smell experiences than most people in the whisky industry ever encounter, because the majority of people working in the whisky industry are limited and constrained and confined to the product they're representing. And this is where the new age of the true enthusiast, the aficionado, really kicks in. And I think it's something that it's taken the Scotch whisky industry by surprise. There's some people in the industry delighted because finally there's a genuine, authentic appreciation of all the work and skill that goes into making and presenting a really good whisky. And not only doing that once, but doing it time and time again when you're restricted to the availability of casks and you're working in a very tight budget due to the expected price point of whisky. And it's fascinating times, by the way, because this is a global phenomenon now. It's not that long ago that Scotch whisky was enjoyed in the UK and Europe and in North America, particularly the USA. But it hadn't really kind of reached beyond these borders, particularly in the 1990s. But so much has changed so fast that some people in this whisky industry, they're really quite unsettled about it. They're, I would say, actually intimidated by the amount of genuine knowledge that whisky enthusiasts have, and can actually, the calibre of conversation that whisky enthusiasts have amongst themselves globally now, not just contained within a bar or a whisky club or even the occasional whisky festival, wherever that may be, but because of online, because of forums and Reddit groups and Facebook groups, there is this incredibly articulate conversation and a very fast, responsive conversation relating to those who buy whiskey to drink, those who buy whiskey to collect, those who buy whiskey to invest in and flip, those who buy whiskey into whiskey for status, and those who buy into whiskey just out of curiosity. There's so many conversations going on, and here in the Bothy, I've been contributing a lot to these conversations over the last 1,000 reviews. And I've been thinking about it. Something that, because it's Ralphie Review 1,000 extras. You know, it's a certain moment in time. Is there something that I could really sort of give you a kind of bite-sized, digestible piece of information that's going to be really useful to you at this moment in time? And I haven't had to think about it. And what I've done is I've made a list. I've made a list of 3 main points I want to share with you that are important. Because it's all very well listening to others and getting other people's input, but ultimately to enjoy and appreciate whiskey is a personal journey, and it should be too. Now, fair enough, when we start off we can be influenced and we can refer to people around us for advice and for tips, and of course you can always check out the online Scotch Whisky Awards to get short lists of what are generally really good whiskies. But the first point I would make is the importance of making the journey your own personalised, bespoke experience. Don't feel the need to follow others and to base your assessment, your ratings and your experiences of a whiskey on what other people say. Other people out there, whether it be legacy media, marketing, enthusiasts, online forums and websites and videos, are really there to give their own perspective to hopefully support you in navigating your own individual experience. So that first and foremost, you want to get to know what you enjoy, and importantly, where your palate is at. How do you have a sweet palate, a sweet and sour palate? Do you enjoy the bitter notes in whiskey? Do you enjoy the sourness in whiskey? You know, which brands, having tasted them, do you prefer? And even if they're not the big sort of talked about fashionable brands, either by onliners or the heavily marketed brands pushed by manufacturers, you know, don't feel obliged to go with what other people tell you. Have confidence in your own journey and understand that, like everybody else, you're going to make mistakes, but you're also going to have wonderful moments where you've made a decision and you've spent your money and you've invested in a single malt experience and you're really, really enjoying it. And you've only got one person that you need to acknowledge and thank for that, and that's you. Because you're making the journey and you're most certainly making progress with it. Now, the second point that I would like to suggest is very important to everybody is control your budget. You see, with whiskey, it's very easy to be seduced by the bling of marketing. When marketing people tell you that this is a limited edition, rare boutique whiskey and it's worth such and such a price. Now, the response to that is for you to decide what it's worth, not to pay any attention whatsoever to what people who are trying to sell you whiskey are telling you that it's worth. Control your budget. Don't get caught up in bottle chasing and overspending, and in particular, if you get wrapped up in auction bids, and it can become highly addictive. So be aware of that. You go onto the auctions, you see a bottle that looks really promising, it's not particularly special, you put in a bid in, and then someone tops it, so you put in a more generous bid, and then nearer the end of the auction, they top it again. You're immediately informed, and you're saying, I don't want to lose that bottle. And you're sitting there in front of your computer. And what have you got sitting beside you? A little glass of whiskey. That's the problem. Consuming alcohol, even when you're not inebriated, will affect your sense of judgment. When you're on auction sites, make sure you're stone cold sober so as to preserve the integrity of your self-discipline. Don't overspend in whiskey. Don't feel the need to keep up with the McJoneses, who have got the latest bling bottle of this and bling bottle of that and bling 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 bottles of whatever, because there's always a new bling bottle around the corner every single month, because someone particularly online wants to talk about it, so they get the attention, so they get the kudos, so they get the focus of conversation. It's simple psychology. I recommend what you should do is get a whiskey tin or a whiskey container that doesn't have a bottle in it anymore, and every week put in your cash. Yeah, make sure it's cash. Or if you don't use cash and you use card, write down the figure, whether pounds, euros, dollars, or whatever currency you're working with. Write it down on a piece of paper and pop it into your bottle container or bottle tin. At the end of several months, see what it's worth, see what you've accumulated, see what you can afford, and then buy according to your budget. It is easy to overspend, and the presumption is it's okay if I overspend because it's as good as money in the bank, because if I don't open the bottle of whiskey, I can just put it into auction and sell it in the future. But I'm telling you right now, the price of some bottles at auction is going down. It is definitely going down and continuing to go down. There is a lull, you see, in the collectability of whiskey. It's had its moment. It'll have its moment again in the future. But it is not a constant ascending line of profitability. It doesn't work that way. It never has, and it will never work that way. And thirdly, the third most important point is manage your health. Now you'll notice that I'm not saying avoid becoming an alcoholic, because you tend to notice those who are dependent on alcohol have a predisposition due to their genetic makeup and their psychology and the inheritance of their circumstances to be unable to control the volume of consumption of alcohol. And alcoholism devastates life. There are a few people who become alcoholics, but there are many more people who occasionally get drunk or inebriated who are not alcoholics. Many people, most people, can manage the consumption of alcohol. But it's more important than just managing the consumption of alcohol. It's actually investing in the wellness and health that we have whilst we are consuming moderate levels of alcohol. Now, the first thing you do is you monitor your alcohol intake, and you make sure that you follow a pattern. Because once we get into the habit of moderated alcohol consumption, it becomes much easier to manage. And I recommend that you stick to whiskey with a glass of water rather than mixing drinks. So no whiskies and gin and tonics and red wines. Don't mix them all up. That is a recipe for disaster. Focus on your single malt whiskey. Focus on sipping alcohol. Because once you start mixing alcohol in long drinks, cocktails, or with soda water, it makes it much, much easier to unknowingly consume a greater volume of alcohol without registering it. And this is why bars want you to consume long drinks. This is why they want you to buy cocktails, because it's all about the money they make. And they know that as soon as you've had a few drinks, your self-control of your budget and the sensible pricing mechanism you have, it's gone out the window. Because you're in that social environment and you're overspending, and the following day you wake up with a headache, dehydrated, and you look at the money you've spent and you go to yourself, was it even worth it? This is one reason why a lot of people don't go to pubs and bars anymore. Because it's too much of a tempting environment to overspend and overconsume. And this is why if you're going to bars, particularly if you're into Scotch whisky, go to specific whisky bars, specialised whisky bars, where the environment is more sociable, more relaxed, and there's less pressure to volume drink and speed drink. Where you can actually take your time with a dram, and it's perfectly normal because it's the right environment for it. But it's not just about taking 3 days off or 4 days off a week. It's not just about keeping an eye and marking the outside of your bottle with a felt tip pen, a permanent marker, so you can see how much you're consuming. It's not just about asking your family and friends to keep an eye on you and for them to tell you when they think you're consuming too much. It's about more than that. It's about actually proactively managing your health. So I recommend you get your exercise. I mean, it's not just modifying alcohol consumption. It's actually, in parallel with being whiskey drinkers, it's actually having a proactive, sensible lifestyle where you eat fresh food for nutritional value and you don't eat whole loads of refined carbohydrates for entertainment. Because modern food's as much about addiction and entertainment as it is about some nominal nutrition. You know, get old-fashioned with your meal plans. If you're cooking a meal yourself at home, you're halfway there. Because the chances are you're using natural ingredients and you're using them properly, and there's more nutrition in the food you're preparing because you're doing it fresh at home at point of consumption. But there's also, get yourself some milk thistle, because milk thistle is really, really good for helping your liver. Because the liver is the main organ in the body, along with the kidneys, that has to process alcohol and convert and neutralise the alcohol we consume. And it's a demanding job for the internal organs, and they never complain and they never make a fuss and they just get on with it. And then the first point that we know something's really wrong is when the body tells us we're not well. Then we find out that we've got a health problem, and then we say, hang about, I was a moderate drinker. Were you really? Are we really? What's moderation? It varies between individuals, and you're always better to err on the side of caution. Focus on quality, never in quantity. So milk thistle, some CoQ10 for your heart, some brewer's yeast tablets to get some extra vitamins into the body. Excuse me, I should have brought myself a whiskey here for this review. Generally appraise your health and ask yourself, am I getting enough practical exercise? And we're not talking about hammering it down at the gym, although there's a lot to be said for that. It can be a lot of fun. But it's just going for walks, it's getting fresh air, it's breathing deeply, it's sleeping properly, uninterrupted. It's only consuming pharmaceutical prescription medications when you actually need them, rather than when we just want them for the convenience of them. All these things matter as we look after our health, because if we look after our health, it helps the body look after us. Simple as that. So there you have it. For Ralphie Review 1000 Extras, some practical advice delivered from the bothy. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm keeping the it's burnt down a little bit, a wee bit. There's the one of the wicks kind of come off a bit, but still burning. I'm going to keep the candle burning for you as the reviews go on. And I look forward to you joining me soon for Ralphie Review 1001, in which I will be going on a time journey, a journey back in time. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.